Have you ever wondered what actually happens behind the scenes when an organization has to move vulnerable people safely?
Yeah, that's a huge logistical question.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about situations where public trust isn't just, a corporate buzzword that gets tossed around in some boardroom.
Hmm.
It is an absolute, literal life or death requirement.
Absolutely.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are pointing our lenses at a very specific, incredibly high-stakes industry, which is non-emergency medical transportation.
You might see that abbreviated as NEMT.
NEMT, exactly. And we are going to explore this world by looking really closely at one company in particular, SwiftAid Transport.
Right.
We're using them as a case study for how you actually build an organization when the margins for error are, well, virtually non-existent.
And that margin for error, that's the critical piece to understand right out of the gate here. Because when you're dealing with medical transportation, you aren't just, moving a package from point A to point B.
Right, it's not Amazon Prime.
Exactly. You are moving people. And very specifically, you're moving individuals who are often frail, recovering from major procedures, or in need of specialized ongoing physical assistance.
Yeah, the stakes are they're so much higher.
They really are. The level of trust required from the healthcare providers who schedule these rides, from the families waiting at home, and obviously from the patients themselves, it's immense.
So true.
So our deep dive today is going to explore exactly how a company goes about engineering that required trust into its very foundation rather than just kind of hoping for the best.
And to really grasp this, I think we have to start by getting perfectly clear on what NEMT actually looks like on, say, a random Tuesday morning.
Let's do it.
Because if you aren't in the healthcare space or if you haven't used these services, it is so easy to misunderstand this.
Oh, completely.
We aren't talking about ambulances with flashing sirens rushing through red lights, right?
No, not at all.
And we definitely aren't talking about calling a standard Uber or just hailing a taxi.
Right. I mean, imagine an elderly man who uses a motorized wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he needs to go to a thrice weekly dialysis appointment. He physically cannot navigate getting into a standard sedan.
Exactly. So the driver who shows up, they aren't just a chauffeur.
No.
They have to safely operate a wheelchair lift, properly secure the chair using specialized restraints.
Which is complicated in itself.
Totally. They have to monitor the passenger's comfort during transit and ensure a seamless, safe handoff to the medical staff at the clinic. They are a critical, undeniable link in the healthcare chain.
It's a profound transfer of responsibility. I mean, think about it. If a standard rideshare is 10 minutes late, what happens?
You miss your morning coffee run?
Right, or you miss the first few minutes of a meeting. It's an annoyance.
Yeah.
But if an NEMT van is late, or if a driver isn't properly trained, that patient misses life-saving medical treatment. Or worse, they get physically injured during the transit process.
Which is it's unacceptable.
The stakes are categorically different. And historically, the broader NEMT industry has really wrestled with some severe systemic issues.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second because the context is important.
There have been ongoing challenges industry-wide with reliability, with properly vetting drivers, and frankly, with fraud.
Yeah, the fraud aspect is wild.
It really is. Things like ghost rides, where they bill for trips that never happened, improper billing practices, and just a general lack of baseline accountability.
So this is the environment SwiftAid Transport is operating in, which makes their internal approach to governance so compelling to analyze.
Exactly.
Which brings us to our stack of sources for today's deep dive. We have access to some internal governance notes dated March 5, 2026.
Yep.
Alongside a very comprehensive blueprint document titled SwiftAid Integrity Command, Governance and Operational Standards.
A bit of a mouthful, but very detailed.
Very. And our mission today is to introduce you, the listener, to this internal governance unit. We are going to uncover who they are, what they actually do when they step in, and how they are attempting to weave accountability directly into the DNA of their operations to combat those exact industry issues you just mentioned.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the basics. What exactly is this unit?
So internally, it's officially called the SwiftAid Integrity Command.
Okay.
And there is a rather memorable detail right at the top of their organizational blueprint. It notes that the acronym SIC is pronounced SIC.
Which is incredibly ironic for a medical transportation company.
Right.
You have to appreciate an organization that leans into a slightly edgy acronym like, hey, we're sick.
It definitely sticks in your mind, but despite the name, their function is incredibly serious.
Oh, absolutely.
The internal framework defines the SwiftAid Integrity Command as a dedicated internal governance unit. Its entire reason for existing is to promote accountability, professionalism, and transparency across the entire organization.
Right, but any company can write that on a wall.
True.
It goes much deeper than just a vague, fun, good mission statement here. Their blueprint breaks their operational focus down into 4 highly specific core areas.
Let's go through them.
First, there's integrity oversight. This is the actual mechanism for reinforcing ethical standards and professional conduct across the board.
Okay.
Second is safety awareness. This focuses on supporting and enforcing the procedures that actively protect both the passengers and the staff.
Which is non-negotiable in NEMT.
Totally. Third, we have regulatory compliance, which is just massive in this space, ensuring that every single operational practice aligns tightly with local, state, and federal regulations.
Especially healthcare regulation.
Right. And the fourth area is employee recognition, which is dedicated to highlighting the individuals who demonstrate exceptional professionalism and service.
Now, I want to pause on that list for a second.
Yeah.
Because it really paints a picture of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But isn't calling it an integrity command a bit heavy-handed?
How do you mean?
Well, if I'm a driver or a dispatcher, does that title make me feel like I have some Orwellian big brother constantly watching over my shoulder, just waiting for me to make a mistake?
That is a very natural reaction.
Yeah.
And it is a risk any company takes when implementing strict oversight like this.
Yeah.
However, what's fascinating here is the timing of when this command was established. That detail completely shifts the dynamic.
Oh, right, from the March notes.
Yes. The internal notes reveal that SwiftAid established the Integrity Command during their pre-launch phase.
Pre-launch.
They built this ethical infrastructure before the company even started operating.
That is huge.
It wasn't a reactionary measure slapped onto the workforce after things went wrong. It was introduced as the baseline reality of working there from day one.
That is such a rare approach. It really makes me think of an organizational immune system.
Ooh, I like that. An immune system.
Because usually when you look at corporate history, whether it's tech, finance, or even logistics, oversight acts like a bottle of antibiotics.
Right. You only take it when you're sick. No pun intended with the acronym.
Exactly. The company catches an infection. Maybe it's a massive ethical breach or a highly publicized safety failure, or a PR nightmare regarding all that fraud we talked about earlier.
Right. The stock drops, the public panics.
And then leadership scrambles. They try to administer the medicine by suddenly creating an oversight committee or bringing in an expensive outside auditor.
Always reactive.
Always. But establishing this pre-launch, that is like building the immune system to proactively protect the body before it ever gets exposed to the harsh environment.
It is a fundamental paradigm shift. In industries that involve vulnerable populations, relying purely on the good intentions of your staff or hoping that your hiring filters catch everyone, it simply isn't enough.
No, because humans are humans.
Exactly. People get tired, systems get stressed, miscommunications happen, and the temptation to cut corners can creep in. The SwiftAid Integrity Command is there to ensure consistent standards of conduct and clear accountability regardless of those human factors.
Startups usually have that whole mantra, move fast and break things.
Right, the Silicon Valley mindset.
But in NEMT, moving fast and breaking things literally means breaking people.
Oof. Yeah, that puts it in perspective.
By investing in this culture of accountability, safety, and respect from the very beginning, they aren't trying to fix a toxic culture later. They are setting the rules of the game before the first player ever takes the field.
I want you, listening to this right now, to think about the companies you interact with on a daily basis. Think about the services you rely on, the apps on your phone, the contractors you hire.
It's a good exercise.
How many of them treat accountability as an afterthought? How many of them only seem to care about safety, transparency, or preventing fraud after a scandal forces their hand?
Most of them, unfortunately.
Right. Looking at SwiftAid as a case study really reframes how you look at the foundation of a business.
It really does. Which raises an important question regarding the blueprint itself, the actual scope of this command.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts.
Because it's one thing to say you have an immune system, but who is actually involved in this oversight? And where does it take place operationally?
Let's dive into that. Because the reach of this command is extensive. When you hear governance unit, you usually picture a group of executives sitting in a closed-door boardroom on the top floor.
Right. Guys in suits far removed from the actual day-to-day work happening out on the street.
Exactly. They look at spreadsheets and issue memos. But this framework explicitly states that SIC works collaboratively with a wide spectrum of the company.
It's not just the C-suite.
Not at all. Yes, it includes leadership and management, but it also directly involves the operational staff, the drivers navigating the traffic, the dispatch teams coordinating the routes, and the administrative personnel handling the billing.
Their blueprint contains a defining philosophy that drives this exact setup. It states, and I quote, "Integrity is not limited to leadership alone."
I love that line.
It's powerful. Every single member of the SwiftAid team contributes to maintaining this professional and accountable environment.
Now, that democratization of accountability sounds great on paper, right?
Sure.
But how does that actually work in practice? If I'm a dispatcher working a chaotic 3:00 a.m. shift and I'm dealing with cancellations and vehicle routing, am I really holding the same responsibility for the organization's integrity as the CEO?
In a functional system like this, yes, you absolutely are.
Absolutely.
Flattening the ethical hierarchy means that the dispatcher at 3:00 a.m. is empowered and expected to flag a driver who sounds fatigued on the radio,
Oh, interesting.
or to halt a route if a vehicle's maintenance log hasn't been updated properly. They aren't just pushing buttons on a screen, they are the active guardians of the company's integrity in that very moment.
That makes a lot of sense.
And if we look at where the Integrity Command operates, it mirrors that same flat, widespread approach. The documents state that it functions across the entire organization.
So not just in an office.
Right. We're talking about field operations, dispatch and scheduling, administrative functions, and training environments. But there is one specific area mentioned that is absolutely paramount in this industry.
What's that?
Interactions with healthcare facilities and partners.
Ah. Why is that particular intersection so significant? What exactly happens at that handoff between the transportation company and the hospital?
It is the ultimate transfer of risk.
Okay, break that down for us.
Think about a hospital discharging a patient or a dialysis center receiving one. The moment that patient leaves the physical building and enters the NEMT van, the healthcare facility is essentially handing over the care of their patient to a third-party service.
Right.
Hospitals are notoriously and rightfully terrified of liability. If a transportation company has a history of poorly trained drivers, or if there is a whiff of the fraud we mentioned earlier, like billing for rides that didn't happen, or using inadequate vehicles, the hospital is legally and ethically exposed.
Because they chose that vendor.
Exactly. By having the Integrity Command maintain direct, visible oversight during those partner interactions, SwiftAid is providing those healthcare partners with a profound level of assurance.
It takes the burden of worry off the healthcare provider.
Precisely.
The facility doesn't have to wonder if the driver is following safety protocols or if the billing is going to be a nightmare. Because they know SwiftAid has an entire internal unit dedicated to ensuring compliance.
They are actively demonstrating their strict standards whenever and wherever they operate.
It's a really compelling way to secure B2B relationships when you think about it.
Definitely.
So if this unit is everywhere and it involves everyone, when exactly does it activate? What pulls the trigger for SIC to step in?
The blueprint outlines a dual approach here. They have reactive triggers and proactive triggers.
Okay, start with the reactive.
On the reactive side, the Integrity Command becomes involved whenever issues arise that require review, clarification, or improvement. The internal framework gives several clear examples of what that looks like.
Like what?
These include safety incidents, like a vehicle collision, operational concerns, like a missed pickup, ethical or professional conduct questions, policy violations, privacy or confidentiality matters.
Which is huge given hyper-A regulation.
Massive. And general operational improvement opportunities.
Okay, so if a driver is involved in a fender bender, or if there's a question about whether a patient's sensitive medical information was handled with the proper confidentiality during a scheduling call,
Right.
the Integrity Command steps in. That makes total sense. It's the baseline expectation for any HR or compliance department.
Sure.
But what about the proactive side? How do they stop the fender bender from happening in the first place?
This is where the strategy shifts from standard management to advanced governance. The Integrity Command actively conducts proactive initiatives. We are talking about running continuous training programs, deploying safety awareness efforts, and constantly evaluating internal policies to see where the weak points are.
Finding the cracks before they break.
Exactly. The documentation explicitly states that the goal is not only to respond to problems, but to identify risks early and strengthen systems before issues escalate.
It is the difference between having a fire department that only shows up to put out your house when it's already engulfed in flames,
Yeah.
versus having a fire department that also walks through your house on a random Tuesday, installs smoke detectors, checks your faulty electrical wiring, and teaches you how to use an extinguisher.
That's a great way to put it.
One prevents total destruction, sure, but the other prevents the spark from ever catching in the first place.
Right.
But doing that is incredibly resource intensive.
Yeah.
Is it really worth the cost for a private company to do all that proactively?
If we connect this back to the broader NEMT context, proactive risk management isn't just a nice-to-have expensive feature. It is an absolute operational necessity for survival.
Because of the stakes.
Right. If an issue escalates when you are transporting a vulnerable patient, the consequences are severe. We aren't talking about a delayed package delivery where you just offer the customer a $10 credit and apologize.
No.
We are talking about a patient's physical well-being, their medical privacy, and the legal liability of the company itself.
Well, it's a whole different ballgame.
In an industry historically plagued by bad actors cutting corners to save a buck, early identification of risks is non-negotiable if you want to protect the organization, satisfy regulators, and actually build lasting trust with the community.
Which naturally leads us to the actual mechanics of it all. We know who they are, we know where they are, and we know when they activate.
Yep.
But how do they actually pull this off day to day? Because it's one thing to say you have an integrity command, but what happens when a dispatcher actually flags a problem?
The blueprint lays out a methodology for exactly that.
Walk us through it.
They utilize a highly structured four-step process, and examining this methodology reveals a tremendous amount about their intended corporate culture.
Okay, step one.
Step one is reporting and communication. The framework explains that employees can raise concerns, report hazards, or ask questions through established communication channels.
Standard enough.
But the critical element here is that the Integrity Command emphasizes professionalism and absolute confidentiality when these concerns are reported.
That confidentiality piece is massive.
It's the linchpin.
If an employee sees a safety hazard, let's say they notice a fellow driver isn't properly securing the wheelchair restraints because they are rushing to finish their route.
Common issue.
They need to know they can report it without fear of retaliation, right?
Yeah.
Without being labeled a snitch and without sparking toxic office gossip.
Exactly.
If the channel isn't genuinely safe, the entire system collapses because people will just choose to look the other way. It's human nature to avoid conflict.
Precisely. The system relies entirely on the psychological safety of the frontline workers. Which brings us to step two, review and evaluation.
Okay, what happens there?
When a concern arises, the Integrity Command evaluates the situation to determine the next best step.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Their internal notes explicitly state, not every issue requires escalation. Many concerns can be resolved through discussion, training, or process improvement.
It's such a vital distinction.
I love that distinction. It shows that this unit isn't just a hammer constantly looking for a nail. They are acting as mentors and problem solvers just as much as they're acting as monitors.
It is a highly nuanced, intelligent approach to human error. They recognize that a mistake might just be a gap in the company's training protocol, not a malicious policy violation by the employee.
Right. If a driver takes an inefficient route and makes a patient late, it might be because the scheduling software gave them bad data.
Exactly. Not because the driver was slacking off or trying to game the system.
So the review process is designed to uncover that root cause.
Yes. But of course, some issues do require formal escalation, which is step 3.
Investigation and documentation.
Correct. If a formal internal review is deemed necessary, it includes structured interviews, rigorous documentation review, and deep policy analysis. The framework demands that all reviews are conducted objectively and respectfully.
Objective and respectful. Again, keeping the temperature down, removing the emotion, and focusing entirely on the facts.
Which is hard to do in a crisis, but necessary.
And that leads directly into the final step, step 4, resolution and improvement.
Right. After the evaluation is complete, the command might recommend corrective actions, operational improvements, mandate additional training for a specific team, or even suggest updates to the overarching company policy itself.
And nested within this final step is a sentence in their blueprint that is arguably the most powerful statement in the entire document.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
It says, the goal is always to strengthen the organization, not simply assign blame.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Please do.
think deeply about the psychology of a typical toxic corporate environment. If an organization's primary unspoken goal is to assign blame and find a scapegoat whenever something goes wrong, what do the employees naturally do?
They hide their mistakes.
Exactly. They cover up near misses. They point fingers at other departments.
They spend more time writing defensive emails to cover their tracks than they do actually doing their jobs. We've all been there.
We all have. But if the stated, documented, and practiced goal is to strengthen the organization without seeking a scapegoat, you foster an environment where open communication actually thrives.
It changes the whole dynamic.
Employees are far more likely to report a flawed process if they know the result will be a better system, rather than a punishment for whoever happened to be holding the bag when the music stopped.
Transparency thrives when the fear of arbitrary blame is removed.
Exactly. It is such a refreshing perspective on corporate accountability, particularly in healthcare logistics, where covering up a near miss could lead to a fatality the next time the scenario occurs.
But the Integrity Command doesn't just focus on fixing problems, adjusting policies, or handling investigations. Let's pivot to the fourth core area we mentioned at the very beginning, which honestly surprised me when I first read through these sources.
It's a great pivot.
We've talked a lot about the investigations, the compliance checks, the rigorous oversight, but there is also a very prominent carrot.
You are referring to the professional recognition initiatives housed within the unit.
Yes, I was genuinely surprised that an Integrity Command unit is the one responsible for giving out awards.
It seems counterintuitive at first.
Usually when you hear about an internal governance, compliance, or HR unit, they are viewed purely as disciplinary. They are the grim reapers of the corporate world.
They are the people you absolutely do not want to get an email from.
Exactly. A calendar invite from compliance ruins your whole week. But SwiftAid has integrated employee recognition directly into the mandate of this oversight unit.
The notes from March 5th detail this dynamic beautifully. The Integrity Command coordinates specific recognition initiatives to highlight employees who demonstrate exceptional professionalism and a commitment to the company's core values.
They list 4 specific formal programs, right?
Yes. The Integrity in Action Awards, the Passenger Care Excellence Recognition, Safety Leadership Acknowledgements, and Professionalism and Service Awards.
Passenger Care Excellence Recognition. Just the name of that award tells you exactly what the company is trying to value.
It's very intentional.
It's not just about who drove the fastest routes or who logged the most hours. It's about the tangible quality of care provided to that vulnerable person sitting in the back seat of the van.
Which goes back to the core mission of NEMT.
But how do you stop this from just becoming a meaningless Employee of the Month plaque that gathers dust in a break room? We've all seen those programs fail.
That is the perennial challenge of corporate awards. But this raises an important question regarding structural design. Why house these awards within the Integrity Command itself?
Right. Why not just let regular management handle it?
If we analyze the psychology of organizational behavior, it makes perfect sense. By tying the awards directly to the oversight body, you elevate their prestige.
Oh, that's smart.
The same rigorous unit that investigates safety failures is the unit recognizing your excellence. It isn't just a popularity contest run by a middle manager.
It carries actual weight.
Exactly. It is a formalized acknowledgement that you are upholding the highest standards of the industry. By highlighting these individuals, the Integrity Command is actively, visibly reinforcing the professional culture that SwiftAid is trying to build.
And people respond to that.
Positive reinforcement is a massive driver of human behavior, often far more effective than the threat of regulatory enforcement alone.
The internal text even spells out the synergy between the two sides of the unit, the oversight and the recognition.
What does it say?
It notes, accountability and recognition work together to strengthen overall organizational morale and professional pride.
It is a brilliant balancing act.
Think about it. If you only have strict accountability and constant monitoring, you breed resentment and burnout. People feel like cogs in a machine.
Big Brother is watching but never saying, good job.
Right. But if you only have recognition without real accountability, the awards feel completely hollow because everyone knows that bad behavior is going unchecked in the background.
The awards lose all meaning.
But putting them together, you create a framework where people actually want to do the right thing, and they feel a deep sense of professional pride when they execute it well.
It creates a self-sustaining ecosystem of professionalism. The standard is set, the standard is enforced, and the standard is celebrated.
I love that. Set, enforced, celebrated.
And that brings us to the ultimate goal of all these mechanisms, these four-step processes and these recognition awards. How does this internal framework actually impact the wider landscape of non-emergency medical transportation?
The blueprint concludes with a philosophical statement that I think really anchors this entire deep dive.
Lay it on us.
It states, strong organizations are not defined by the absence of challenges. They are defined by how responsibly those challenges are addressed and how consistently they uphold their values.
That is a remarkably mature operating philosophy.
It really is.
Every transportation company on Earth will face challenges. Vehicles will break down on the highway. Severe weather will create sudden safety hazards. Complex medical scheduling software will glitch. Miscommunications with hospital staff will happen.
It's unavoidable.
SwiftAid isn't pretending that their operations will be a flawless utopia.
Right.
Instead, they're making a concrete promise to their partners and their passengers. When those inevitable challenges arise, we have a rigorous, transparent, and fair system already in place to address them responsibly.
And by embedding these transparent practices so deeply into the organizational culture from the pre-launch phase onward, they're ensuring that the immense responsibility of transporting vulnerable patients is met with the absolute seriousness it deserves. They aren't just moving people. They are actively trying to cure the systemic trust issues that have plagued the NEMT industry for years.
By objectively evaluating safety incidents without resorting to toxic blame shifting, by strictly enforcing regulatory compliance to weed out the risk of fraud or negligence, and by publicly celebrating exceptional passenger care, SwiftAid is offering what their internal notes call a blueprint for healthcare trust.
A blueprint for healthcare trust.
Healthcare facilities need to know, they absolutely must know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the transportation companies they partner with share their exact ethical standards.
Lives literally depend on it.
The SwiftAid Integrity Command is the tangible operational proof of that commitment. It is the complex mechanism that proves their integrity is not just a theoretical marketing pitch.
So what does this all mean for you as you're listening to this? Even if you never personally use a non-emergency medical transportation service, or if you don't work anywhere near the healthcare sector, this deep dive is really a masterclass in organizational design.
It applies everywhere.
It proves that integrity isn't just an inspiring generic poster hung up on a break room wall. To be genuinely effective, integrity has to be visible to the employees. It has to be measurable by the management. And it has to be deeply meaningful to the end user.
Well said.
SwiftAid has taken a highly abstract concept like trust and engineered it into a daily operational reality that dictates how every single employee functions.
And that leaves us with a fascinating thread to pull on as we wrap up our analysis today.
Let's hear it.
If a medical transport company realizes that their most valuable asset isn't their physical fleet of vehicles or their proprietary routing software, but rather their structured internal process for accountability and trust, what does that say about the rest of the business world?
That's a great question.
Imagine if every tech startup, every financial institution, or every logistics company you interacted with treated the creation of an integrity command as a non-negotiable pre-launch necessity, rather than a frantic post-scandal afterthought designed to appease angry shareholders.
It would change everything.
How would that proactive approach fundamentally reshape the safety, the reliability, and the trustworthiness of the products and services we rely on every single day?
That is definitely a profound concept to chew on as you look at the companies you do business with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of organizational integrity, the battle against industry complacency, and the critical importance of engineering trust in medical transportation. To learn more about this standard of medical transportation and to see how these concepts are applied in the real world, be sure to visit www.swiftaidtransport.com.